Alright everybody, I'm back here with all the answers you sent in for the Q&A. We've gotten way more questions than I can answer, but I will try to answer a few of them today. So we dive right in here. Travelin_surfboards asked this question. If you were given today's smart trials bike during the early days, do you think it would have added progress? Or did design push progression in trials? Ooh, that's a good question. I mean, I wish I would have had a modern trials bike back in those days. You know, those bikes certainly make certain things a lot easier. Just for example, hopping on the back wheel. The way the old designs bikes were designed, it was really difficult to keep the bike calm. And with the new geometries, that changed a lot. But you have to also keep in mind that it takes time, progression, and it doesn't come overnight. And so, you know, even if you had the modern bikes, people still would have had to discover how to use it and develop these techniques. So yes, it would have sped things up, and yeah, sometimes I wish I could just go back today and compete in one of those events 20 years ago, and I think with the modern bike I could even hold my own still, you know, even though I'm 20 years older. So good question. Alright, at Sandro Swift asked, the last 20 years I've wondered, why did you choose to ride 26-inch trials with a suspension fork? That question I've got to hear a lot. You know, originally in trials we had two classes, modified, which was 20-inch bikes, and stock bike, which was supposed to be a stock mountain bike, a regular mountain bike. So then mountain bikes evolved and suspension came on the market, and for me it was important that my bike would still look like a regular mountain bike. I learned that people could relate to my skills much more if they could relate to the bike, and I would ride a bike like they had it. So initially it started out like this, and then I carried it on, and part of the thing was also, in the early days people were very skeptical about suspension forks. Would they even be necessary? Would they be strong enough? Would it work? And all those things. And part of my mission was to prove, you know, that this was the case. And yes, for hardcore trials competition, the fork is not necessarily an advantage, but there's a lot of situations where I actually feel like the fork gave me an advantage, and it allowed me to do different lines and a slightly different riding style. So that's why the fork. Next question. 3 technical innovations in mountain bike since you started. The most significant things, I don't know off the top of my head, and this might not be the right order, but dropper posts I think made a huge difference, or at least I thought it was a genius invention. Suspension, obviously. Mountain bikes, you know, suspension, it opens a whole new door. You can go so much faster and smoother, and it's sometimes I wonder how we could have ridden some of those gnarly trails back in the days with rigid bikes, you know. So suspension is a plus. Disc brakes made a big difference, and I almost want to say, you know, even e-bikes is a pretty cool innovation, because I have to say, if you like it or not, it gives you a whole new set of fun and challenges with the bikes, and it's a really cool thing, and it brings kind of the child out of me again, you know, the feeling I had when I was a 14-year-old boy. Next question. Wow, Jose Malage. How did your childhood make you the person you are now? Jesus Christ. So, you know, I mean, I was raised in Germany, and I have always, you know, discipline and standards, and I had a great family, and they taught me values, and I've always carried that with me throughout my whole life, be it as a competitor or be it as a business person. So I always had my standards that, you know, I would go by. And I think these early influences, you know, even people you maybe admire or sports you follow, you know, those things leave a deep impression, you know. And people say, you know, you can only make a first impression once, and I always kind of went by this saying, and that's why I always try to be nice to people who talk to me or ask a question or even show me, you know, their respect. So that's a difficult question to answer. MTB Mike Colo asks, are you and Greg Herbold still friends? Funny you ask. I was just talking to Greg yesterday, and I don't see him that often these days. He lives between Moab and Durango, and I don't see him often enough. But Greg and I had a huge history. He was obviously one of the great stars of the 90s. He was the first ever downhill world champion. But we did a lot of films together, like the film Tread, you know, that was a big milestone in the mountain bike community, and I always loved working with him. There was always so much laughing going on and jokes, and we did a few really cool early adventures together. So yeah, Greg will always be a friend. If you could only ride one bike from the current GT lineup, which would it be? Dan 0930. This one right here, GT Force. Do you have plans to redo some old adventures, like the Inca Trail, for example, you know, with the modern bikes? It will always be amazing to see, and why not doing it on an e-bike? So I don't necessarily want to go back to too many of the trips I've done, as great as they've been, you know, and a few of them I have been back. But yeah, it's not a bad idea to revisit some of these places on the e-bike. It would definitely be a different experience, you know, but some of the places, you know, are, you know, we had special permit, for example, on the Inca Trail, you know, to Machu Picchu. So, you know, I don't think we would get that again nowadays, you know. Back 25 years ago we could get away with it. Mount Kenya I've done twice, and I have to say the second time around it was just as cool as the first time. So yeah, but I'm really into like finding new stuff that I've never done before, and the latest thing I've been really stoked about has been these urban adventures, and I've been doing the Trans Angeles, which is now on my YouTube channel, and we've just finished the Trans Napoli, and I'm planning a bunch of other ones of these urban adventures. Hong Kong is on the radar as well. So let's see, what do we got here? J. Richard, no, this is from Sean Window. Love the look of the new GT bike. How much input did you give them on the new suspension design? I'm sorry to say actually that I didn't have that much to do with the design of these bikes. I mean, over the years I've always been involved with the design and gave input or tested on a level. This particular bike, the engineer came up all by himself. No, there was a bunch. We have a team and we have a lot of racers, and they built this bike, you know, to be race ready, but also to work for the everyday guy. But I have to say, since I've gotten it, I've been really stoked about it, and they did a great job. So onwards we go. The craziest trick or stunt you've done? Kenny Rojas 88. Ooh. I don't know, you know, to put that into time perspective, you know, what was maybe crazy 25 years ago is maybe normal stuff today. But I think one thing, it's always when you mess with Mother Nature, and I was riding on glaciers and volcanoes, and I rode once in Hawaii where the volcano was literally still erupting, and the lava was flowing in the ocean, and the ocean water was boiling right there, and this filmmaker wanted me to dance to the dance on a bike in front of, you know, right there on the edge at night with the steam cloud lit up from the red hot lava, and literally the water was boiling behind me, 2000 degrees, and I had 3 layers of clothing on because pieces of lava would explode in itself and fly through the air, and that was pretty crazy and dangerous, just to mention one of them. Backyard Enduro's asking, what do you recommend to stay agelessly healthy as one ages? Well, I think the key is to just keep doing it. You know, once you stop, you know, it's hard to get your fitness and your mojo and everything back. It's also important is also to have fun with what you do. You know, if you don't have fun, you know, then there's something wrong. So make it fun, you know, whatever it takes. Ride with the right group of people, pick the right level of riding, you know, don't ride over your head and be scared or be suffering, you know, like, you know, make it fun, you know, that helps a lot, at least for me. What's your favorite trail in Livigno? Asks Louis Green. Well, it's not one trail, it's a loop actually, the Tutti Frutti Epic. It's a loop on the Carosello 3000 mountain park in Livigno in Italy that has all these different flow trails combined in an epic one-day ride. It takes about 4 or 5 hours to do it. It has about 10 trails, and that is definitely a bucket list ride when you go to Livigno. What and who was your inspiration in the early days? Thule Stevens. Well, a lot of things and a lot of people were my inspiration, you know, over the years. I've always looked up to other athletes, not just in my own sport, even competitors. I would try to learn stuff from them, what they did right and also what they did wrong. You can learn a lot from people's mistakes without making them yourselves. And I would also look at other sports. For example, the whole free riding thing really started because in the early 90s extreme skiing started to get big. Those guys jumping off cliffs, and guys like Glenn Blake or Scott Schmidt were these extreme skiers. And at one point I was like, I don't want to be a mountain bike racer, I want to be an extreme mountain biker and do what these guys do. And that was way before the word free ride was even coined. But I was inspired by what these guys were doing, and sometimes you would borrow something from a guy from motorcycle trials or from motocross or from rock climbing, and whatever I saw that people did that I thought would be cool in my sport or would be cool for my career or my situation or my training, whatever it is, I would adopt and learn, you know. And it's to this day, and often you learn from even, they don't have to be famous people, or you know, and even the young generation gives me inspiration and sometimes makes me go out and try stuff that I haven't tried before, or push myself a bit harder than I feel comfortable. So, let's see. Is it true you used to have hair? Asks Bob Allen. Ha ha ha. Yes, I used to have actually a ponytail that was legendary, and I was just known by that. As a matter of fact, when it was cut off and we filmed it for one of my films, and it was kind of an unplanned event. Some of my friends thought it was time to do it, but people were really upset, and people thought there was part of me was gone. There's like, how can Hans Rey exist without a ponytail? But anyway, it's hanging now on the wall at GT Bicycle office in Connecticut, so if you ever go there, take a look at it. It still exists. Proof is there. When did you become an Adidas athlete? And you should design future Adidas mountain bike gear, asks on 229. Well, I've been actually an Adidas athlete now for over 25 years, since 1993, and I'm happy to announce that I'm just resigning for another 4 years with Adidas. Very cool and loyal sponsor. It's a cool brand to work with, and they have this incredible line of Terex, which is kind of their outdoor adventure line, but they have biking products in there and biking shoes, and 510 is part of that whole package. And yes, we are working on stuff, and I am giving my input, and keep your eyes open because the stuff is really functional and it's a great company to work for. Germans. The Germans. Any luck getting your stolen bikes back? Yes, this question came in quite a lot of times, and unfortunately, no. As if you may or may not know this, but a week and a half ago, my second home in the East Midlands in England was burglared. Not only once, but actually 3 nights in a row. They broke into my garage and into my camper van. They stole a total of 9 bicycles, 2 motorcycles, and a heap of spare parts and tools and gear and helmets. And there's a video link on my YouTube channel that shows the stuff that was stolen. These bikes are very unique. Some of them were really collector's items. Others were my brand new GT Sensor, or my Evorb, or my GT Crate. My wife got 3 bikes stolen. So if you see anything, you know, please keep your eyes open. Some of these bikes must surface and we need to claim them back. Okay, let's see here. This guy says, you've inspired countless of people as riders. Who has inspired you and why? Well, kind of similar than the other question before. One of my top favorite mountain bikers, I think, is another question, you know, was always John Tomac. You know, Johnny T was just a legend of the sport back, you know, in the early, basically mainly throughout the 90s. That was kind of the main part of his career. He started in the 80s, and he was always a class act. Not only was he branching out in all the disciplines of cycling, you know, from literally downhill and cross country, where he won World Cups and championships, but he was a top slalom guy. He used to do the early day trials competitions in America. He used to race BMX. He used to be on a road team, you know, and he raced the downhill world championships with drop bars. So what else do you want? So Tomac is definitely a big inspiration. I was inspired by other people, like I said before, the skiers, or, you know, I used to look up to Boris Becker for certain things that he's done in his career, or Jody Tarvis, the motorcycle trials rider. So you name it, you know, there's a lot of cool dudes out there, and even the new generation, you know, there's a lot of people to look up to. Paul G94 is asking, what's your take on e-bikes? Haha, yeah, that's the golden question. Well, honestly and obviously, I'm pro e-bikes, and I know there's people out there who don't like them, and everybody can have their opinion. For me, the e-bike will never replace the regular bike. I will do both, just like I can do alpine skiing and Nordic skiing, and I'm aware of all the conflicts e-bikes can cause, and I think everybody has to be responsible, but at the same time, it's undeniable that e-bikes are most and foremost fun. I mean, whoever has ridden one says that. Even the biggest critics sit on one and you have a big smile on your face, and it's a different kind of riding. But it opens new doors, new challenges. I can all of a sudden ride up hills that I could never ride up, and I can go further, and I can ride with different people, and I can ride, if I want an easy day and I don't want to do a hardcore ride, I ride my e-bike, and if I want to do a hardcore ride, I ride my regular bike. So, I mean, e-bikers need to be responsible. You know, there's nothing wrong with banning them from some trails, with closing some trails, have maybe one-way trails. And most important is to educate the people who get them, so they actually have some trail etiquette and behavior, and also take care of other trail users. So I think it's a good thing for the industry, and I think they're fun. Alright, next, Lee Curry is asking, what was your first real mountain bike and what age? Well, to tell you the truth, I didn't start mountain biking till I was 20 years old, when I came to America, really. Until then I was just riding 20-inch trials bikes, which I started at 12 back in Germany. So at the beginning, the first couple rides, I would actually borrow an Ibis bike from my buddy Kevin Norton, and soon after that GT gave me my first bike. It was a GT Avalanche, and ever since then it's been GT. Next question, here we go, we're getting to the end, guys. Oliver Pemberton is asking, three tough ones, I guess. All of the amazing biking adventures around the globe, which is the most memorable and why? What's the best trail you've ridden? That's a tough one. I have been lucky enough to go to so many different places and ride so many cool places. One of them that always sticks out is Mount Kenya. You know, I mean, I did Kilimanjaro in Kenya a couple of years ago for the second time. And Kenya is just like an amazing mountain. It's the second highest mountain in the world. It has all these different climate zones. It has really good trail, actually. It's just an all-around unique experience. I did also a few years ago a really cool adventure in the northern Argentinian Salta region near Tilcara, and we did like a 3-day mini trip across the Andes from the high desert. And that trip was also incredibly unique, incredible landscape, incredible cool trail. So that was cool, and I always like to go back and ride the Alps, you know, and but the coolest thing is with mountain biking, you can find good riding anywhere you go in the world, and there is good stuff that is, you just have to find it, and it's diverse enough. So even in places like Florida, where you wouldn't expect much mountain biking, you find great stuff, and more stuff is being built these days, so it's a good time to be a mountain biker. And here we go. Desmond Lee is asking this question. As a professional writer in the business world, you must encounter disappointments, either from people or from outcomes. How did you maintain your own integrity and stay positive all these years? Yeah, of course, like, you know, that's how it is in life. You get thrown stuff at you and you deal with it, and some of the stuff you just have to accept and go on with it, and other stuff you have to learn your lesson from. And for me it was always important, whatever I did on and off the bike, I figured if it works for everybody involved with me, then, you know, then it would work for me ultimately too, which means, like, for example, in the business thing, if my sponsors were happy, if my fans were happy, if the media is happy, if the PR guys are happy, or whatever it is, you know, if I would make them happy, then hopefully, you know, like, things would work out for me too. So basically it comes down to, you do what you believe in, you do a good job, you have integrity, and move forward. Okay, last question. No, maybe a couple more. Social media, how have you engaged into the changes over time with social media, and how do you use it? Well, it's hard not to use it these days, social media, you know, and I think everybody has a love-hate relationship with that stuff. And as an athlete, all of a sudden you have another job besides training and writing and competing. You have to produce content on a daily basis, and it's cool in some ways. It's a really great way to communicate with people. On other ways, it is frustrating, especially then when you see these things like people like cheating and buying fans and having fake followers, and it's, to me, that's kind of the modern day doping, you know. Just like dopers used to steal prize money from racers, social media fakes are doing the same thing, and it's not authentic, and they're not going to survive. So, but social media is what it is, and here we are on YouTube. That's social media. Alright, you guys, thank you for sending your questions. Thank you for checking out my YouTube channel and my adventures. Stay tuned, there's more to come. Love you.